The real insurrectionists. That's the focus of tonight's angle. Well, after another night of unrest and all-out mayhem in downtown L.A., Governor Gavin Newsom is finally taking action. He's finally putting his foot down. He's had enough. But you'd think he was, warning the rioters to stand down. Don't go into the freeway. Don't block it up. You'd be wrong, because Newsom's warning the president to stand down. Yeah, the destruction of his city notwithstanding, the governor filed for an emergency injunction in federal court to block the Pentagon from ordering federal and state troops to suppress the uprising in L.A. Of course, he doesn't think it's an uprising. California's court petition was filed oddly in San Francisco and claimed that Trump is the real problem. Federal antagonization through the presence of soldiers in the streets has already caused real and irreparable damage to the city of Los Angeles, the people who live there, and the state of California. Irreparable damage caused by the presence of the Marines and the National Guard? Oh. Did their presence compel last night's looting of local businesses or the blockade of the 101 today? Do they really think Americans are that stupid that they're going to believe that the National Guard is causing such pain that they forced thugs and mob-like figures on the streets to throw pieces of concrete and start fires? Trying to brush off the blame that they obviously deserve for their sanctuary policies, Newsom and L.A. Mayor Karen Bass claim to have a simple solution. Just stop enforcing immigration law.
The real solution of all of this is for the administration to stop the raids. We have heard that these raids might take place for the next 30 days. We don't know how many are going to take place in a given day. And you just think about the disruption to families and the disruption to our local economy.
Oh, yeah, right. It's wonderful for the local economy to have thousands of people swarm a federal ICE operation, wildly smash car windows, whip rocks at passing vehicles, spray paint profanity everywhere, and, yeah, wreck mom and pop stores.
Hey, we don't do that. No, we don't do that, Hey, no, we don't do that. Hey, get the out.
And by the way, they lost in federal court today. Federal Judge Breyer said, no, we're not intervening, not giving an emergency injunction, an emergency stay to make Gavin Newsom feel better. So they lost in court. But the sad fact is Newsom, Bass, and most Democrats, they're never really going to condemn these rioters, not really, because the rioters are their constituents. The anarchists are their constituents. The socialists are their constituents. The open borders Marxists are their constituents. And yes, the criminal illegals, they're their constituents. They hope they'll vote someday soon. And the same dynamic was in place in 2020. Black Lives Matter was just a Democrat front group. And we found out after, 90 million in donations poured in, it was as corrupt as the day is long. Speaking at Fort Bragg today, Trump was unfazed by the Newsom resistance and vowed to never let the thugs destroy federal property.
Generations of Army heroes did not shed their blood on distant shores only to watch our country be destroyed by invasion and third world lawlessness here at home, like is happening in California. As Commander-in-Chief, I will not let that happen. It's never going to happen.
Listen to that response. Yeah, that's America.
They're the heroes. They're fighting for us. They're stopping an invasion just like you'd stop an invasion. The big difference is most of the time when you stop an invasion, they're wearing a uniform. In many ways, it's tougher when they're not wearing a uniform because you don't know exactly who they are.
And now Democrats are pretending to be outraged about the prospect of Trump invoking the Insurrection Act, which, of course, is his right. I'd say it's his obligation to do if, and it's his call, if he feels the United States is being threatened from within by violent seditionary forces.
We had some bad people. We have people, they look in your face and they spit right in your face. They're animals. And these are paid insurrectionists. These are paid troublemakers. They're agitators.
Of course, Democrats dined out on the word insurrection for 4 years, referring to another riot on January 6th, They demanded National Guard troops to protect them. And when they're challenged on their hypocrisy, man, they go nuts.
You don't have the National Guard that didn't come in on time on January 6th, or you do have the National Guard where there was violence. We did see it on our TV screens. What do you want?
So, wait a second. So on January 6th, I was here. There was 50,000 people outside. They were scaling the wall. The police were run over. How many police officers have died in L.A.? 0. How many people died on January 6th? 5. When people say that Democrats are being not consistent, is completely wrong.
First of all, he lied. The only person killed on January 6th was an unarmed woman named Ashley Babbitt. She was shot dead by a Capitol Hill police officer, Michael Byrd. Now, as we mentioned, there was one scene in particular that grabbed our attention last night and sure made the so-called protests look professionally supported. These kind of high-grade, riot gear type face shields were distributed by a mystery person. Fox 11 witnessed these individuals handing out tactical gear to the protesters. No arrests, though, were made, despite ongoing acts of vandalism and street interference. So why is this criminality continuing? Because, as I said before, at least as of now, there doesn't seem to be any accountability.
Demonstrators are throwing rocks and bottles right now at police as police are now pushing the line forward, trying to get people to disperse.
We've heard so much from people about the idea of law enforcement taking people into custody who may be in the country illegally. Are we seeing any indication of law enforcement taking these folks into custody who are clearly committing crimes right live on TV that everybody can see?
Police are firing back with their rubber bullets. But it's really not stopping it.
But Democrats, again, they don't care. They don't care about those scenes. They don't care about destruction. They don't care about the storefronts being just, looted. They don't care. They're playing politics, and they're covering for their constituents.
Donald Trump wants conflict and violence. House Democrats stand on the side of peaceful protests and condemn the violence that Donald Trump is rooting for.
It's absurd. It's so desperate. Now, Democrats, in watching this play out, they may not recover from this for a decade. I know that sounds like wishful thinking. I don't want anything to happen to any of our great cities. But they are playing with fire here. They need to rip out the vile anti-American element from their party and start over. Because the protesters, I hate even calling them protesters. They're not really protesters. These are criminals. They're dressed in all black. They're marauding through the streets, taunting law enforcement. They've been programmed to believe that this country is illegitimate.
This is our city, and this was Mexico. You can't kick us out of the land that was ours.
Indigenous land. This was Mexico. This is our turf. These motherfuckers. Free them all!
This is what they believe, that we're living on stolen land. And for that reason, immigration laws should really not even apply to this part of the country at all. So the message they're sending America is clear. They don't recognize this government as legitimate, and they certainly don't recognize Trump as a legitimate president. So these riots have zero to do with immigration or deportations. The illegals are pawns. The bottom line, these thugs, if they don't get the government they want, the policies they want, they'll burn it all down. Yet what they apparently don't realize is that the longer this continues, downtowns and storefronts won't be the only thing left in ruins. The Democrat Party will be a smoldering ash heap as well. And that's the angle.
Liberals realized waving Mexican flags was a bad look, so they started passing out American flags, saying, wave these flags instead. It's better optics. And the crowd said thanks and took the American flags and burned them. One of the guys organizing these riots said this is war.
This weekend was marked with absolute and total violence, brutal repression, and attacks, coordinated attacks against our community. For us as indigenous people to these lands, to this continent, this is nothing new. The military going after us is nothing new. We don't advocate for violence, but when they use brutal violence against our people and kidnapping mothers and fathers from children is violent. When they do things like that, we have every right, every historic right to defend our communities by any ways that we can, and we're going to continue to do so.
CNN says we should just raise the white flag and let Mexico have California back.
Remember that California was part of Mexico. All of the Southwest is Mexico. So the roots are really deep in that region. And what they're saying is, no, not in our community.
We won the Mexican-American War. Mexico signed a treaty. LA is not an Indian reservation. I'm sorry, it's a part of the United States. Notice how the rest of the media isn't even interviewing the rioters. It's almost like they don't ask questions because they know they're not going to like the answers. Here's why.
We don't agree with the term illegal. We're undocumented. We've been here for thousands of years before you guys showed up, screw up everything. We're anti-capitalist. We think socialism does work, real socialism.
Is there a country we can look to kind of model the socialism idea?
The only model would be Soviet Union, the first 4 years.
That right there says it all. So guess what side the Democrats are on?
Let me be clear. Congressional Democrats stand in full solidarity with the residents of Los Angeles, with our immigrant sisters and brothers, and with the peaceful protesters who dare to speak out and who will support every effort to oppose this president's abuse of power.
Democrats are telling cops to stand down and rioters to stand up. LA Mayor Karen Bass says the riots will stop once the ICE raids stop.
I would say stop the raids. Stop the raids, period. I would say give the power back to our governor, and if we need the National Guard, we can do it in the normal circumstances, which is the request is made local and the governor decides or not to grant that to our city.
We're getting extorted by the LA mayor. It's like a hostage crisis, but she's threatening to burn her own city down. Trump, not a guy who likes being extorted.
Mr. President, these protests obviously started in reaction to these large-scale ICE operations in Los Angeles. Should people expect to see similar operations in the rest of the country?
No.
And will similar protests see similar response?
As you know, we're moving murderers out of our country that were put here by Biden or the auto pen. The auto pen really did it. We're not going to let them stay. And this is the first, perhaps, of many, or perhaps, if we didn't attack this one very strongly, you'd have them all over the country. But I can inform the rest of the country that when they do it, if they do it, they're going to be met with equal or greater force than we met right here.
The LA mob is fired up because Democrats called ICE Nazis and the Gestapo. And now they're calling them slave catchers.
This reminds me historically of it's not a clear analogy, but when the nation, when these political factions divided the nation in between slaveholders and slave catchers, with ICE running around LA, forcing people to make choices. Will they protect their friends, their neighbors, their family members?
That makes Barack Obama the biggest slave catcher in America because he had Tom Homan rounding up a record number of illegals. So after lying to us, extorting us, and then calling us Nazi slave owners, Democrats are covering up the riots like Biden's brain.
It's no different than when a team wins a national championship and people get overexcited and they overturn vehicles and light them on fire. Local law enforcement is prepared to handle those types of situations. Marines and National Guardsmen are not.
Yeah, Dodgers fans went a little nuts when they beat the Yankees, but this is a 5-day riot. Pelosi said cut them some slack. People are just feeling a little exuberant.
When there is a gathering, a large gathering of people, the anarchists see it as an opportunity and they move in. So always have to be careful whether you see a burned car or a broken window or whatever it is. It may be the exuberance of the moment, but it may be the anarchist setting in.
Maxine Waters, no relation, says, what violence? I don't see any violence.
Even those who were out of step with what we are advocating, peaceful protest,
did not create any violence. Nobody was shot, nobody was killed. Get it in your head. Don't think that somehow, because they called out the National Guard, there was violence. There was no violence. I was on the street. I know.
I didn't see violence is the new I didn't see Biden decline. The whole country sees violence on their TVs, on their phones. Stelter says, don't be confused by what you watch. The violence could be from 2 hours ago.
You've got to be careful at a delicate moment like this to look at the timestamps, look at the dates, look at when things are actually posted, and if they're really from the situation they're purporting to be. A lot of these algorithms are surfacing hours old or even days old content. So you might be looking at a video of something, wondering what's happening in LA. It's actually from 2 days ago. And that's, it only matters because it can give people a false impression of what's actually happening at a moment of unrest.
Where would we be without Brian Stelter to explain the concept of time? The riot started on Friday, and today is Tuesday. LA County police say you should believe your own eyes.
Every single police officer and deputy sheriff right now wants this to end. Unfortunately, the governor of California is 100% adding fuel to the flames. His rhetoric is one thing. What he says is one thing. What he does is another. He is absolutely part of the problem that we're seeing here. And so there is a lack of cooperation with the state of California and local officials.
Gavin's giving folks room to riot just like tampon. Same thing happened in the summer of love. Democrat governors let violence fester until finally Trump restored order. Trump's not waiting around this time. He says if it wasn't for him, LA would be up in smoke.
Called him up to tell him, got to do a better job. He's doing a bad job, causing a lot of death and a lot of potential death. If we didn't send out the National Guard, and last time we gave him a little additional help, you would have, Los Angeles would be burning right now. The radical left, it's usually radical left, and it's usually governors that are Democrat, and they don't want to call them in. They don't want to save lives. They don't want to save property. They don't want to call them in. I don't know what it is.
Newsom responded, and he said there wasn't a phone call. He said Trump never called him. Not even a voicemail, he said. But John Roberts got Trump's call logs, and it shows Trump called him late Friday night, and they talked for 16 minutes. Why would Newsom lie and claim Trump never called him? Why would he do that? Gavin could have called up the Guard Friday night and could have stopped the violence and saved millions of dollars in damages. But we're now on our 5th day of mayhem, and Newsom suing Trump to send the Guard home. And California congressmen, they're telling the National Guard to disobey orders.
The legal provision Donald Trump is relying on to deploy the National Guard under 10 U.S.C. Section 12406, he is violating the law because that provision very clearly says that the governors of the states have to give the order, and Governor Newsom clearly didn't do that. And this is very important. I ask every National Guard member to read their orders, read the law, and then decide for themselves if they're following an unlawful order.
Ted Lieu's a lawyer, and he doesn't know what the law is. Presidents have mobilized the Guard and overruled governors before. Washington did it for the Whiskey Rebellion. Grant sent federal forces to South Carolina to stop the Klan from preying on blacks. Eisenhower used the 101st Airborne in Little Rock when the Democrat governor there was fighting desegregation, and Kennedy put down segregationist rallies in Mississippi. Trump's just wielding the power that the country gave him in a landslide. He swept the battlegrounds, won the popular vote, and moved almost every county in the country to the right, including LA County. And he's not the one who mandated vaccines and censored you and prosecuted his rivals and disobeyed the courts. That was AutoPen. The Democrats can't control the narrative anymore. Trump's not a dictator, and these riots are violent. They said no one's above the law, remember that? But they let illegals break into the country and then hide them in their cities and then attack ICE when they move in to do their job. These riots are getting no cultural traction, none. No one's posting Mexican flags on Instagram. No one's taking a knee with a sombrero. Companies aren't being blackmailed into donating millions to an open borders charity. It's not happening like BLM, remember? These LA riots make January 6th look like a picnic. And Karen and Gavin couldn't stop fires, clean up the homeless, fight crime, or shut down the virus. What makes you think they'd shut down this riot? Is the real reason they're fighting ICE this hard because the more migrants they deport from California, the less congressional seats the state gets? Remember, the census counts people, not citizens. So they're burning down their own city to maintain political power. If they're capable of that, they're capable of anything.
Police breaking for another night of chaos. But first, we need to step back. We need to remember what these riots are all about. Now, first, we had Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, and, of course, Alejandro Mayorkas and every Democrat telling us the border is closed, the border is secure. They lied to us for 4 years. Anywhere between 12 and 20 million unvetted illegals, including known terrorists. We have Iranian assassination squads in the country. We have cartel members. We have gang members. We have murderers. We have rapists. We have other violent criminals. Started there. Then, of course, ICE, in this case, is doing the job of getting rid of these people that Joe and Kamala and others allowed in the country. And, of course, the safe haven created by cities and states like California, cities like Los Angeles. And ICE conducted an operation in Los Angeles, arresting, quote, the worst of the worst illegal alien criminals there. In other words, far-left idiots are now taking to the streets, waving foreign flags, looting stores, burning cars in support of, let's see, murderers, rapists, gang members. Remember, this is the party of Abrego Garcia. So tonight, why don't we introduce you, this was on FoxNews.com, to some of the other criminal illegal aliens that the left is so desperate to keep in your country, that Gavin is fighting for, Karen Bass is fighting for. First up, Jose Ortiz from Ecuador, previously sentenced to 11 years in prison after getting caught with 11 kilos of cocaine. That's close to $500,000 worth of cocaine. Next up is Armando Ordaz, or a suspected gang member from Mexico. Now, Armando is a convicted sex offender and a thief. Then, of course, there's Victor Mendoza Aguilar from Mexico, who previously was deported in 2017. This suspected gang member served time for drug charges and deadly assault with a deadly weapon, among other crimes. And here is Delfino Aguilar Martinez from Mexico. He was convicted of assault with a deadly weapon with great bodily injury. Next up is Eswin Ariel Castro, who was also previously deported. Castro has convictions for child molestation, has also been arrested for robbery, domestic violence. And look at your screen. This is Lionel Sanchez Laguna. His crimes include battery to a spouse, cruelty to a child, shooting into a house, assault with a firearm, and a DUI on top of that. We could go on and on. I have pages and pages and pages of people that they are arresting, including a convicted murderer from Vietnam and a guy from the Philippines convicted of an unspeakable sexual assault. But just so we are clear, this is who the anti-ICE protesters are fighting for. These are the people that Gavin Newsom and Karen Bass are protecting. These are the people that would still be on the streets of Los Angeles if their mayor, if their governor had their way. They were all protected, every one of them, under L.A. and California's insane sanctuary city and state policies. Governor Gavin Newsom, who we expect will be speaking in this hour, he has been protecting these criminals for years, never once lifted a finger to protect the law-abiding citizens in his state, with sanctuary state laws that now Newsom now supports. Get this, police in California, they are not allowed to even ask criminals for their immigration status. State law enforcement officials are barred from working with ICE even to apprehend violent convicted offenders. They can't even hand them over to ICE. My question for Governor Newsom, and I have a lot of them, and we'll put them up maybe in the course of the show tonight, was it worth it? Are you proud of putting innocent Americans in danger by creating a sanctuary for criminal illegal aliens? I'm going to scroll here, the names of victims in California of violent crime. And while we get that up and running, think about this. You know, we scrolled during the 2024 campaign, all the names of people that were murdered and all the people that were raped and all the people that were victims of violent crime because of the open borders that they were lying about, because they said the border's closed, the border's secure. None of that was true. We have the same thing out in the state of California. And my question, we know that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris never picked up a phone. They never called the victims. They never called Laken Riley's family, Rachel Morin's family, Jocelyn Nungary's family. Did Gavin Newsom ever call the victims' families in California? Now, probably won't answer that question, although he did take a lot of time to respond and fight with me on X during the height of the riot. And also Mark Wayne Mullen also took time to do multiple interviews on friendly left-wing legacy media mob networks like MSDNC. He even, in the middle of all this, had time to do podcasts just so he could trash Donald Trump while pretending to be a martyr, almost begging to be arrested. It is, as usual, pathetic. He's putting his own blind political ambition over the safety of law enforcement and the safety of the law-abiding citizens of Los Angeles and in his own state. Instead of conducting himself like a leader when his state needed him the most, Gavin Newsom was trying to use the riots for political gain. In fact, one California sheriff is telling Newsom, put the phone down, be quiet, because he, quote, is doing nothing but fueling this process. Remember, during the Pacific Palisades fires, he claimed no responsibility. Remember, they had fire hydrants. They were empty. They had reservoirs. They were empty, too. And then his answer was, well, it's not my fault. You need to ask the local elected officials. I'm on the phone right now, ma'am, talking to Joe Biden. He wasn't talking to Joe Biden. Well, I'm going to talk to Joe Biden. But it's not just Gavin Newsom. The response of almost every top Democrat has been totally bizarre, completely dishonest. I mean, you have Kamala Harris, you have Adam Schiff, you have Cory Booker. You've got all the predictable actors. Now we can add Hillary Clinton to the list. Maxine Waters claiming there's no violence, none at all, in Los Angeles. Don't believe what your eyes are showing you. Take a look.
The protests, and even those who were out of step with what we are advocating, peaceful protest, did not create any violence. Nobody was shot. Nobody was killed. Get it in your head. Don't miss the point, you all. Don't think that somehow, because they called out the National Guard, there was violence. There was no violence. I was on the street. I know.
Oh, I went to a couple of streets, and I know. Never mind what's on TV. Never mind the videos. Oh, let's see. We've got plenty of that we're going to be showing you throughout the night. Really, Maxine? No violence? All of this peaceful? No, we could show pictures. Oh, that's right. Look at that. Car's on fire. That looks like violence taking place there. Oh, another car on fire. Looks like more violence taking place there. Never mind the fact that law enforcement agents, they were being attacked. They were being hit with bricks and mysterious liquids, and baseball bats were placed. And the rioters just conveniently all had gas masks and frozen water bottles. Anyway, and her colleague out there, Nancy Pelosi, said that lighting cars on fire, really not a big deal. The rioters just got caught up in the exuberance of the moment. Is this how you act when you're exuberant? Take a look.
And I say this as a former party chair, when there is a gathering, a large gathering of people, the anarchists see it as an opportunity and they move in. So always have to be careful whether you see a burned car, a broken window, or whatever it is. It may be the exuberance of the moment, but it may be the anarchist setting in.
Wait a minute. I have a question. That horrible attack against her husband, and it was horrible. Was that somebody being exuberant? I'm feeling exuberant. Let me attack somebody. I'm feeling exuberant. Let me attack cops. I'm feeling exuberant. Let me burn some cars. What a genius. And let's not forget about California's junior senator, the congenital liar Adam Schiff. Yesterday, he filmed himself praising the peaceful nature of the riots. Just pause for a second. You know, in the summer of 2020, the media Democrats, they'll say they're peaceful. They're mostly peaceful. 24 Americans died, thousands of cops injured, billions in property damage. Kamala said they won't stop, shouldn't stop, and she wouldn't stop supporting them. Remember that? But they cared about only one riot, not the 574 riots. Oh, the border's closed. What are you talking about? Millions of people are walking across it, but it's closed. Joe Biden is cognitively as sharp as he's ever been. It's hard to keep up with him. These people lie all the time. They do all of this while blaming Trump for the riots. You know, not their own sanctuary city and state policies. Take a look.
Things are peaceful here in Los Angeles. I hope and pray that they stay that way. The folks who are being impacted by these immigration sweeps do not want violence done in their name. So outside people, agitators, whoever, just stay the hell out. And as for the President of the United States, commandeering the guard over the opposition of the governor was a pointless and incendiary action. It has made matters worse. And now mobilization of the Marines, also just inflammatory and unnecessary. So do your job and stop making matters worse in Los Angeles.
This is why we call him the congenital liar. You have a party of liars and lunatics. I can't emphasize that enough. These Democrats now speaking out in favor of violent riots taking place in Los Angeles in response to ICE apprehending the worst of the worst illegal immigrants convicted of murder and rape, child molestation in the face of anarchy and crime. And it's no wonder Americans are overwhelmingly supporting Donald Trump's immigration policies. Even fake news CNN pointed this out. It's especially true of illegal immigrants. Take a look.
Immigrant voters, foreign-born voters, have gone tremendously to the right on this issue in 2024 and 2025 versus where they were in 2020. Closest to or trust more in immigration. You go back to 2020. Democrats, get this, held a 32-point lead on this issue. Immigrant voters were in the Democratic camp. Jump forward to 2024, 2025. Look at that shift, a 40-point shift to the right among immigrant voters. Republicans now lead on this issue by 8 points over Democrats.
Now, look at that, a 40-point shift. And by the way, mostly among immigrants, mostly among minorities. They want safety and security in their own homes. They want the law to be followed. They don't want anarchy. And by the way, we'll get to this later with Matt Towery. He has a poll out. 59 to 39 Americans support Donald Trump sending the guard to Los Angeles to help out with the mess there in that sanctuary city and state. Democrats have lost the plot. Under Trump, the deportations, they're going to continue no matter what. And for the record, Matt Towery will join us and explain in detail why the American people approve of this and why there is a transformational political shift in the country as it relates to, the Republican Party versus the Democratic Party. Democratic Party of coastal, woke elitists. They don't want tax cuts. Permanent tax cuts, they're against those. They're going to vote against them. Or no tax on tips, no tax on overtime. They're the party that doesn't want energy production in this country and the wealth. They don't want to control the border. They want open borders. Good luck with all these policies.
You missed me. I missed me, too. Good evening, everyone. So CNN's Brian Stelter says his friends in L.A. told him that 99.9% of the city is just fine. Coincidentally, 99.9% is also his body fat. In L.A., rioters held up Mexican flags to protest people being deported to Mexico. That's like holding up a pride flag to protest being deported to John Travolta's ass. Makes no sense. California Governor Gavin Newsom and Mayor Karen Bass denounced the federal immigration raids. So now they don't want California to have ice or water. Hold your applause. According to ICE, the migrants arrested in L.A. included convicted sex offenders and drug dealers. Wow, no wonder so many people called in sick at Nickelodeon.
Oh, well done.
Thank you. Thank you. When Maxine Waters tried to enter an ICE detention center, she had the door slammed in her face. The same thing happened when she tried to enter Supercuts. Just mail your hair in, lady. Kamala Harris said the Los Angeles protests were overwhelmingly peaceful, just like her water is overwhelmingly vodka. Over the weekend, a cow tried to escape an auction by roaming into the crowd. Wow, containing animals that size? I don't know how ABC does it. Every time, you bastards. Yale researchers used a new therapy to successfully revive dead brain cells. Doctors say it could be an effective treatment for people who accidentally left their TVs on in the morning. Oh, stop it! And finally, some male Ozempic users are claiming that the drug makes their penises up to 1.5 inches longer. Wow, that'll double the size, says one man. He doesn't watch, so. So Los Angeles is on fire again. It's like deja vu, the French words for Newsom sucks. So while ICE was out investigating a criminal conspiracy, rioters assumed it was an immigration raid and swarmed and assaulted the feds. And no surprise, the state's leadership spent 2 days giving the rioters more support than Pelosi's underwire. Yeah. Now, as usual with the leftist brats, the right had to ride to the rescue of law-abiding citizens who had the audacity to not want their homes and businesses burned to the ground. So Trump sent in the National Guard, upsetting Karen Bass, who was busy searching Expedia for cheap flights to Ghana. Hell, she already helped the cause and caused plenty of violence and destruction herself by holding back the LAPD. Like the LA fires, she just let it spread. And so federal law enforcement got less protection than your average human trafficker. Maybe if ICE identified as Maryland dads, Democrats would form a human shield around him. Now, this being LA, where bad leadership is as common as butt implants, everyone had a role to play in this show. Newsom showed his statesmanship by tweeting frantically about Trump. For Newsom, this wasn't violent chaos. It was a campaign ad. I'm Gavin Newsom, and I approve this riot.
Hey, I'm Governor Gavin Newsom. I want to encourage you to visit beautiful California. Whether it's our bustling cities, great outdoors, or famously toasty climate. We got something for everyone. I'll see you soon. And don't forget, bring your sunglasses. It's hot out there.
That's clear. These riots are more orchestrated than the Boston Pops. For some reason, there's always activist organizers and foot soldiers ready to riot. Their signs and banners are so quickly produced. Gaza, BLM, Tesla, ICE, it's what leftist NGOs are happy to fund. The goal, to recalibrate risk. Obviously, getting thousands of violent offenders out of the country reduces your risk from crime, unless that process creates a counteroffensive that puts you at greater risk. It's extortion. You see the mob that might come for you and decide instead that law and order isn't worth the trouble. Remember the 2020 Summer of Love? Those BLM riots caused dozens in deaths and billions in damage. So calling that love is like saying Sean Diddy Combs likes to moisturize. And this hilarious video could be the dumbest moment in media history.
I want to be clear in how I characterize this. This is mostly a protest. It is not, generally speaking, unruly, but fires have been started.
I said that was the dumbest, but now we have contenders. I wonder, Spartacus, do we see peaceful protests launching in Los Angeles?
We see peaceful protests launching in Los Angeles. These peaceful protests are being generated because the President of the United States is sowing chaos and confusion.
We are having an administration that's targeting peaceful protests.
There have been no violence where anybody that was protesting hit anybody, shot anybody, threatened anybody. Nothing has happened.
What did happen in 1992 was so different from what we're seeing now. I mean, that was a real riot.
So this isn't a real riot. I mean, you got some looting, law enforcement being attacked, mass chaos by unruly mobs. This is more of a riot than when I did that book signing in a tank top. They called trespassing the Capitol an insurrection, but when liberals set a city on fire, suddenly they become Stevie Wonder. And I don't mean talented. So why do Californians put up with this? It's the beachfront restaurant theory, which is if you want to find the worst food in town, go to the beachfront. Because you go for the view and not the food. So who needs a decent chef? That's California. People come for the view, and the inept leaders do whatever the they want. Hell, now they're releasing lifers from prison. Under a new proposal, even inmates sentenced to life without parole, the worst of the worst, could now be freed if they did the crime before age 26. Because nothing says justice like telling a victim's family, hey, remember that guy who murdered your mom? We're giving him back because he was just 25 and only needed a hug. Remember, California won't use the death penalty. So these creeps are truly the baddest of the bad. This is the state that let Charles Manson run out the clock for 50 years. And he still never replied to Taylor Lorenz's postcards. You don't know her. So this is California in 2025. It's no longer a debate between right and left. It's a war between common sense and insanity. It's turned the California dream into a nightmare, one they can't wait to share with the rest of America. But thank God it's mostly peaceful. Can you imagine if it wasn't? Tonight's guest. He may live in LA, but he won't torture filet. Chef and restaurant owner Andrew Gruel. He once got a sitting ovation. Comedian Dave Landau. She only stops talking when asked, do you know why I pulled you over? Outnumbered co-host Emily Campagno. And he's got enormous arms and old broads love his charms. New York Times bestselling author, comedian, and former heavyweight Andrew, obviously you live in Southern California, perhaps Orange County, if you may. Are you surprised by this strange kind of blaming cycle that's going on?
No, it's just getting old. It's the same thing over and over again. I also need to mention I do have a beachfront restaurant.
Do you? Is it true, though, that, like, okay, if you have a beachfront restaurant, you really don't have to try as hard because it's the women that force the guys to go sit. I want to sit where there's scenery. They don't care how bad the food is.
You're 100% correct. And actually, there's a cadre of chefs that only try and apply to beachfront restaurants because they're like the C-grade chefs, and they're proud of it. So you're 100% correct.
Thank you.
And it's a good analogy.
Thank you.
I should just end there with you're being 100% correct. But look, let me explain something, though, instead of just repeating what everybody else says, that this is just so chaotic, which it is. The reason this is being ratcheted up is because Los Angeles and subsequently California is on the edge of bankruptcy. There's a sense of urgency here because they need to figure out ways to get money in. So they're going to ratchet this up. They're going to increase the conversation about how Trump did this. They're going to have chaos. They're going to have more destruction that's caused by, of course, Trump, even though it's their own soldiers. It's Marxism and it's in a little pill. And the idea is to get money from either the the federal government, which they know that they won't get, or all of their donors or other countries, and to really inflame this chaos. So this is a riot, okay? It started on Friday afternoon, not Saturday. Businesses were broken into, cars were exploding, and most importantly, I mean, what this did to the environment is horrible.
Oh, I know, that is horrible. So true. That is so true. I hope Greta Thunberg comes soon and fights in defense of the, I don't know, the jackrabbits.
Delicious to cook, by the way.
Yes, they really are. Dave.
Yes.
Oh, there's so much here. They're gonna let life. Okay, this is what I don't get. This is what I'm so for the death penalty because I don't trust anyone to keep people in prison anymore. Kill them fresh.
Yeah,
right? Bam! You found the moment they find you guilty, then you just shoot them in the head.
Yeah.
Thank you. I don't know. Maybe I went too far, Dave.
Not really. I think that's how they should have filmed To Catch a Predator. Not even have a jury. Honestly, if you're 26, they might as well let you out because I've never met somebody in their 20s who didn't act juvenile.
Yeah.
Like they're all children now.
Yeah.
So it's like, all right, I guess let him out at 26, considering the guy that killed your mom was wearing a Ninja Turtle T-shirt.
Yes.
I don't know how far he's evolved, but yeah, who knows? I mean, California is always the hold my beer state. Like no matter what, they just make it worse and worse and worse. And I'm excited to see what letting a bunch of criminals out of jail will do.
Yes.
Because so far there's none there.
Yeah, that's true. Well, you know what? I think they looked at today's rioters and they said they really need to up their game. Let's bring in the real pros.
Yeah, bring them in.
Yes.
And then, yeah, that's when you're going to really see how everything gets down.
Yeah.
I like that they're lighting cars on fire that record everything.
Yes.
That's a special kind of stupid.
Yeah. I think they called the cars in, right? Because they were driverless cars or Waymo cars. So they actually called them to set them on fire. Emily, what say you? You claim to be a lawyer.
Well, about this,
I don't know anything.
Or anything. Well, in that case. Well, just yesterday, actually, was the anniversary of the first day that Seattle's East Precinct was taken over for 23 days. And I think about now that the president has brought in federal resources. And what other arena, by the way, is there such a big deal about federal resources augmenting state? Nothing. In natural disasters and economic issues, anytime states are like, yes, please, and thank you. And what happened here? The police chief said we are overwhelmed. So what is the issue with what fundamentally was just basic immigration enforcement? What is the issue with bringing in the federal National Guard? It is just because it's Trump. And when you look at who's protesting during the day, quietly, demonstrating, it's not protesting, it's demonstrating in the lawn in front of the courthouse. It's a whole different group of people than what happens the instant that the light goes out and all of a sudden the anarchist takes over, soon to be joined by the 26-year-old. But what?
No, I was just thinking of something, but no, I didn't want to interrupt. But maybe you're
done. We're done here. So I think I guess
if this was a date, you would pray for the waiter.
No, I guess I wanted to.
And like on background, remember this is the police chief that doesn't let the thin blue line flag fly. Right? This is the police department that's still, the whole point is California is America. No matter how much we wish that they would fall into the ocean, even though we're all from there, the reality is that Trump is coming in and saying no to the wayward sheep of the flock. I am collecting you. I am protecting the communities there. And if these guys actually cared about protecting the immigrants, the illegal immigrants, then they would applaud the humane deportation they're going through now instead of getting raped all day, every day from the cartels that they have been.
Yeah, so it leads me to this question, Tyrus. Are they baiting Trump? Was this a way to get him to do something? Because they want to prove that he's a fascist, so that's why the LAPD, they're not doing anything?
It's a weird... Now, I like to fish, right? And this is the equivalent of, instead of putting a worm on the hook, putting a sign on the hook, if you bite this hook, you're going to die.
Yeah.
And it's stupid. There's no such thing as mostly peaceful protest. That's like someone telling you they're mostly pregnant.
Yeah.
And what bothers me is that Trump is doing what any president should have done.
Mm-hmm.
He's not concerned with the morons in the street who don't even know what they're protesting. It's the same thing. It doesn't matter what's Black Lives Matter or whatever. It seems to be there's a distinct part of our population that just loves anarchy, loves free, loves to steal and destroy because they can't get their together. So it's easy to fall in line and jump on. It doesn't matter. If you corner them and say, what are you here for? What are you fighting for? Every answer will be the same, or they'll have to look at whatever the slogan. That's why all the signs are the same. All the stuff is the same. There's pallets of bricks everywhere. Like they have the Democratic Party, the extreme left, have this population of just lost individuals that just do their bidding. And them I get, but it's the politicians who sit there like Newsom and stuff talking that from safely away indoors in a nice place. Well, if he wants to come arrest me, arrest me. Hey, Gavin, if the president gets you, if you get arrested, those little hand signals you have, you're going to want to change them real quick. Because this isn't going to mean what you think it means. You better learn how to say time out and hold on. Yes. But all those so-called politicians and leaders, I have a suggestion. Kamala, Gavin, why don't you invite these protesters to your neighborhoods and have a town hall?
Yes.
Bring them to your place. You know what? It's outdoors. It's beautiful, sunny California. You can have an outdoor. Hell, you can make it a cookout. And don't worry, they'll bring the fire.
Yes. Up next, an unbiased reporter's true colors.
If you'll be in the New York area and would like tickets to see Gutfeld, go to foxnews.com/Gutfeld and click on the link to join our studio audience.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.